Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IrishSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flamong, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uwayama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Wednesday, November 19th. Last night, the College Football Committee updated their latest college football playoff rankings, with Notre Dame holding steady at number 9. A lot of people thought they might fall to 10 behind Alabama. I was not one of those people, as was put on the message board of IrishSportsDaily.com last night. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the continued Miami social media meltdown, which is actually kind of fun at this point.
It's kind of great.
It's kind of cool and fun. So we can talk about we'll talk about the entire CFP and where we think Notre Dame is there. And we'll finish up on Pitt. And then if we have time, we'll get into Syracuse a little bit, who's starting a former lacrosse player at quarterback. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you hear, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so you know whatever it is we are going live. As always, the show is brought to you by ESQ Clothing, which is founded by Notre Dame alum Ge Wang. He is Chicago's go-to for the best custom suits, shirts, and sport coats. Mike brought it up yesterday. Marcus Freeman, ESQ shout out on the Monday press conference. So it's just it's its own endorsement in itself. It's almost a season of gifting, and ESQ is here to help you, your husband, father, son, or nephew, and even the unlikable uncle get some style for the holidays, or even fellow members of the beat. You know, you can get them ESQ clothing. They're known for their next level craftsmanship using the finest fabrics. ESQ has introduced a 100% Pima cotton t-shirt to go along with its award-winning bamboo dress shirt, which is available for purchase online. Of course, they're in the midst of their Black Friday sale, 49% off all online items using code ISD from now until Thanksgiving. It's not valid on custom items and gift cards. They've got showrooms both downtown Chicago and in Winnetka. Book your custom fitting at esqclothing.com and step into confidence with Chicago's finest, 49% off using code ISD. Notre Dame comes in at 9. Jamie, are you surprised? Did that surprise you last night? What was your kind of prediction? I didn't see you put something up on the board, but what did you think, 9 or 10, or what did you think there?
I thought they were going to be 9 or 10. Like, I wouldn't have been surprised if they put Alabama in front of them, just because I think if you just said, if they were just measuring like, well, they have this many wins, like, and that is how the committee has done it before, where they've said they have this many top 25 wins. So that's how they kind of, and it was very binary. Like, that was how they, or at least their explanations were in terms of how they were going to determine that. So I thought it could have gone that way, but I think it's kind of like how I thought it was going to be, right? Like, I didn't think like Oklahoma was going to jump like Oregon or anything like that. I thought Notre Dame, because Oklahoma beat Alabama, and that's fresh in people's minds. Like, I thought that was going to happen. And so I thought 9 for Notre Dame felt like about where I thought it was going to be.
I was not surprised, actually. And the thing is if you listen to the committee, every time they talk about Notre Dame, they just are effusive in their praise. I think they want to rank Notre Dame higher. I don't think they want to rank them at 9. I think they want to rank them at like 6 or 7. And I guarantee you the committee thinks that Notre Dame is better than Oklahoma is.
Yes.
But I think they thought that well, they just beat Alabama on the road. Like, I think in that sense they had to put them at 8. But like, even like without the committee, you look at the projected lines for Notre Dame versus Oklahoma. Notre Dame on the road -3, favored by 3.5 points on the road against a higher seeded team, which I can't remember if it's
neutral
like,
site. They're a touchdown favorite.
Neutral site touchdown favorite. Home, if Notre Dame was at home, they'd be a 10-point favorite. Like, I think it's pretty clear. People think Notre Dame is better than Oklahoma. People think Alabama is better than Oklahoma. Like, they won a fluky game, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where you get into like head-to-head versus, who's actually better. Like, I think the win expectancy for Oklahoma in that game was like 15%, something like that. So obviously it wasn't very convincing in any kind of way. So I think that Notre Dame, I think they think Notre Dame is better than Oklahoma. I think they'd like to rank Notre Dame higher than Oklahoma. And with Alabama, they have a weakness. We've talked about it. The committee likes complete teams. Alabama has a weakness. They cannot run the ball. It is a problem, and it has showed up in every single game of theirs. And the committee wants you to fix your problems, and Notre Dame has done that, and Alabama has not. And so, in my opinion, that's why Alabama fell to 10. And also, they have a bad loss against Florida State. It's a bad loss, and so that matters. I think that was referenced by the committee yesterday. And so, they're looking at the way Notre Dame has played. Notre Dame has absolutely whooped teams since they lost the first two contests. And we've talked about it before. We live in the real world where they can look at that Texas A&M game. You lose by a point on a play that there should be a penalty called, like very clearly should be a penalty called. These are human beings who watch games who can kind of make the conclusion like, hey, Notre Dame has a loss. Their loss isn't the same as some of the other losses that are out there. It's very much a coin flip at best, against what is their number 3 team in the country. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. Where are you at, Jamie?
Man, okay, I'm gonna go off because I got a lot to say about this whole thing.
Jamie's about do stuff.
I am really enjoying the crash out by these Miami people. I am really enjoying it. It's just so ridiculous. There was someone in there, I think it was Justin, who said that Miami kind of moved up. They moved up, and yes, after beating unranked teams. Well, the reason that Miami moved up is because a bunch of teams lost. That's why they moved up.
Also, they destroyed NC State.
Yes, they destroyed NC State, so good for them. But so here's who was in front of them before that. Georgia Tech. That was a thing. Georgia Tech has not been good.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech has not been good. They still have one loss, but they're not a good team. They've played bad. So they barely beat BC. So they're down. Louisville lost in a game that they gave away. It was bad against a bad Clemson team. So Virginia lost. Vandy, you can say, hey, they maybe shouldn't have jumped Vandy, but Vandy hasn't done anything during that time. And if you look at Vandy and if you pit them against Miami, Vandy, their offense is really good. Their defense is troubling bad. So that is why they went down. Texas lost, right? So all those teams lost or played bad or just had some other thing. So it wasn't like they jumped a bunch of teams just based on whatever. It was like these teams lost. That's what happens. So they were going to move up anyways. So that is bound to happen. But I want to point out something because I think it's super important that has totally gotten lost in this is, and Michael Bryan pointed out, our friend Michael Bryan pointed it out on Twitter that all of these teams, people are acting like it's just Miami versus Notre Dame. That's not how this works. Everyone can see on the screen, Alabama, BYU, Utah, those teams are in between them. And it's not even just if you put them on the same screen, it's not just that. They have to judge Notre Dame based on all of these teams. And they just like how they have to judge Miami against all of these teams. Mm-hmm. So if they're going to look at 2-loss, should Miami be above 2-loss Alabama? They have to decide that. And they obviously made their decision. They think Alabama is better than Miami. BYU, are they going to be above 1-loss BYU? They decided no, it's not going to happen. Utah, if anything, Utah should have more beef than Miami because Utah is probably could have been 10 on this list. I think they could be right behind Notre Dame or right even with them. but they play in the Big 12. They don't really have the wins or whatever, but how they've turned, how they played, they could be there. But even if you compared, there's a reason why Utah is above Miami, even though you say, well, Miami, they beat Notre Dame. They're a 2-loss team. They view Utah has played better throughout the year. They like their team better than Miami. So it's not like you're just comparing it against Notre Dame. I understand if it was as simple as like the old way of like the BCS system where it's 1 versus 2, and this one team is, or 2 versus 3 to get into the championship game, and they beat them. Okay, well, there you go, right? Like they're going to decide based on they played head to head. Okay, fine. But that's not how it is. They have to rank 12 teams, and they have to compare all these teams that mostly don't play each other. And so there's all of that goes into it, because you can't just say, well, because Miami beat Notre Dame, it's automatic that they should be there. And then now Notre Dame should be, 14 or something now. It's like, that's not how it works, because they have to compare all of these teams against each other. And that's why it gets like, if Hunter Yurachek wasn't terrible at PR, like, I'm sorry, like the news spokesperson, because Mac Rhodes is
right,
in trouble right now. Hunter Yurachek, I think he's the 80 at Arkansas. If he gave better explanations, this could have not been as big of a deal. But him comparing the losses or whatever, and that being the thing, it's like, well, of course that's going to sound bad. That can't, but it could be like an actual reason that you did, one of the reasons, but that shouldn't be the main reason. The main reason should be that Notre Dame is better, has played better, is better now than Miami, and all of that too. And Greg, we brought up on the other show about how like a couple weeks ago, how Notre Dame women's basketball last year like beat all the big dogs pretty much, right? They beat, the only one they didn't beat was TCU, was that it was early in the season, right? And then they end up losing to them in the tournament. But they beat Texas. They beat USC. Who was the other big team that they beat? UConn. All of them. Yet all of those teams were ranked above them. And Notre Dame still, like from a win-loss standpoint, was very comparable to them. Not like enough of a thing to say like, wow, those teams are so much better or whatever. But they weren't going to be ranked ahead because Notre Dame at the end of the season wasn't playing good. That's why NC State jumped them, right? Like that's how it works. And yet you could do that in basketball and understand like, well, the team that Notre Dame was at the beginning of the season is not the team they are now. But why isn't that a thing in football for regular people to get through their heads? And I know there's just a certain bias. Like, it's like people act like the game happened last week. It did not. Yeah. It happened in August. And there's just a million things like it. This is why I have a problem too with so many of these people speaking out about it in the media. And frankly, it's just like one of these things. It's the committee's job to look at all the little details. Like you mentioned a couple weeks ago about how Mac Rhodes mentioned how Notre Dame lost their starting center and they still ran the ball well against USC. Like that is a contextual point that matters and actually is like a really like important thing to say. Like, hey, they have to understand who these teams are and who they might be going forward. And so that's good, like information to know that they're following that kind of thing. I'm just going to tell you right now, Dan Wolken from USA Today, or name a random guy, name another guy who's terrible at his job that I have no idea why he still has a job writing for college football, because they're passing off. Because there's plenty of good young voices out there writing about college football that should have a bigger platform than some of these guys. Like, those people don't follow it. Like, they don't know anything. They don't know who Carson Hobbs is. They don't know who. They don't know that Tay Johnson. This week was the first time they ever heard about Tay Johnson. You know, that for a lot of those people. And even some of them don't even know who Tay Johnson is because they don't actually watch most of the games. They don't. They watch the highlights, they watch the box scores. They're not like breaking down film. They're not like all 22ing it. They're not doing any of that stuff. They don't know that it's way more complicated than just, well, it was CJ Carr's first start, even though that's one thing. But there's all these other things that, like, Josh Burnham and Jason Onye, just two examples of guys who, like, were not guys for Notre Dame at the beginning of the season. And now it's like, wow, the last 4 games, these guys are prominent players for Notre Dame's defense. Like, or throughout all this time too, where Tay Johnson wasn't a starter then, and now he's like an impact player for them, and has proven consistently he is a great player and has elevated their defense. KVA didn't have as big of a role then. His role has grown. He is an impact player. Like, he's one of the best linebackers probably in the country, right? Like, his role has grown since then. Or talking about schematically how they've changed and how Chris Ass has adjusted and all of these other things. And so it's not even just about just like big things like Jeremiah Love making highlights and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, like, of course, the guy's unbelievable. Or like finding out that, like, oh yeah, Eli Raridan is really this good, or oh, Malachi Fields is this, and all these kind of things. Or if for Miami, as the season goes along, you're like, oh, Carson Beck still is that guy. He still is the guy who's capable of throwing 4 picks in the game, going the full Delhomme, and throwing 5 picks in the game and ruining a game for them, right? Like, there's all of these things. Like, even if you look at Miami, like, Malachi Toney was a dude in game 1. And that's great. That's awesome. And he's still a dude now. And so that's great. But, and forgive me, but I don't, as far as I know, they don't have as many of those guys who have become dudes that you didn't expect to be dudes during the course of the season. And that happens for some teams and it doesn't. But that has happened for Notre Dame. And it's why it's changed things. So last year for USC, I know they weren't a playoff contender, but like Mekhi Lemon becoming that guy late in the season, that changes who they are as a team. Like, all of that.
And going with Jaden Mayava as well.
Yes, right? So all of that kind of stuff, right? Or like this year, they could have went and say like King Miller, say if King Miller was not good. And it's just like, well, after that Notre Dame game, just exposed, well, he's not good. That turns out he's pretty good. He's a pretty good player. And they probably will be helped if those other backs came back. But no, they still have a starting caliber running back who's pretty good without it. And all of that kind of stuff matters. Like, it does matter, but they don't take, like, a random person only just looks at the black and white of, well, they lost in week 1. Like, I saw that some ACC guy, Eric McLean, talking about how Miami dominated that game. They scored a field goal in the last minute of the game to win. I mean, by any standards, who calls that domination? If you want to say like, hey, Ruben Bain and Nestor had dominant games, yeah, for sure. Carson Beck did not have a dominant game. Their running game didn't have a dominant game. Like, all these other pieces didn't. Like, so what are we talking about with here when it's this messaging? Also, when it's the people from the ACC network who are fighting it, and the ACC is pushing this kind of stuff too. That's why I don't really know. Like, honestly, like, maybe the ACC representatives. Honestly, I don't have off the top of my head the members of the committee, like who is from the ACC representatives who are there. But I'd like to think that a lot of those ACC guys have watched Notre Dame play a lot too. And if they're looking at it objectively, they'd say, oh yeah, Notre Dame has performed better against the ACC than Miami has. That seems pretty simple. Seems pretty obvious. But it isn't obvious when it's just talking about like that specific game and looking back and just saying, well, Miami won that game. Yes, I understand they won that game. I mean, that was weeks ago. Like it was months ago. Like it is a long time ago.
Well, I think so. There's a couple things there that you just said. The King Miller point is good because he had done really well against Michigan the week before, who everyone kind of agrees like has a good defense, right? He shredded Michigan. Played Notre Dame, did nothing, right? Then they played Nebraska. King Miller had another big game against Nebraska. Then they just played Iowa, another good defense. He had another big game against Iowa. So you have 3 big games against conference opponents. You play Notre Dame, you do nothing, right? The thing that people are having trouble with, like even when he's like, look at the losses, right? Like Hunter Yurachek was talking about losses. The reason he's talking about that is because you look at Notre Dame in week 1 and week 2, right? Or week 3, I should say, their second game. Like they played A&M, very good team, obviously. You lose by a point in the fashion that they lost. You play Miami on the road, which, by the way, like that was an ACC decision to put that game
at that time, yeah.
At that time, knowing, what Notre Dame had and what Miami had, and knowing that Notre Dame also has Texas A&M the next week. Like, thank you, ACC, for that, which is fine. Like Marcus Freeman said, they embrace it. It's all good. But, like, you lose 2 games in the fashion that Notre Dame lost those games and then clearly got better. You look at Miami, like, I'm sorry, you want to be a top 10 team? Like, because the other part is, like, everyone, Chris Fallica, who's having an absolute crash out, has, like, a 2-week-long crash out right now. It's actually kind of someone do a wellness check.
I know.
like where exactly do you want Miami to be? Where do you want Notre Dame to be? Like, he wants Miami to be 10th. So you lost at home to Louisville, who is now not ranked. Then you lost to SMU, who is not ranked. That's what a top 10 team does? That's what top 10 teams do? No, it is not. That's the thing. Miami had that game and then got worse as the season went on. Now, I think part of the reason why Miami jumps Vanderbilt is because they crushed NC State. Miami is in control here. They need to understand that. If they go and whoop out their next 2 opponents, then they'll be in a different position. Then you can put yourself in a position to be compared to Notre Dame. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to what the man is saying from the committee. They don't have them in the same tier. You're not in the same tier as Notre Dame. Like, that is their mindset. And instead of crying and instead of doing this, sending out tweets and emoting, like, look at what he's saying. Is that incorrect? Is it incorrect to say they are in a different tier right now? It is not incorrect. Like, that is because of the way Miami has played. The only reason that Notre Dame is 9th right now is because of how they've played, which is within their control. If they struggled against NC State, if they struggled against Pitt, if they struggled against USC, if they struggled against Navy, like if they struggled in these games, they would be looked at differently. Their numbers would look different. Their analytics would look different. Like, why is it that when Bud Davis puts out the chart, EPA per play, offense, defense, why is Notre Dame consistently in the top right corner? Why is that? Because of how they're playing. Why are they underrated by the committee versus their SP Plus ranking or their FEI ranking or their Sagarin rating or their Massey rating? Why are they underrated by the committee in that sense? They are a consistent top 5, top 6 team within those computer models. I won't even talk about FPI because that triggers people. So we won't talk about that. But why is that? It's because Notre Dame is playing that way and they have earned that. Like, that is because of how Notre Dame has played games, their performance. They lost by 3 on the road to Miami. They lost by 1 at home to Texas A&M in the circumstances that they did. And then they clearly got better. If you're on the committee and you're being honest, like, you're going to look at that. That's what they do. They are looking at your totality of everything. So to me, it's like, stop crying and stop emoting and look at what's happening. And for Miami, they need to figure out, how are we going to dominate these last 2 games? Because that's what they need to do. They need to dominate. And if they do, they will enter the conversation, and we can have those conversations then.
I do want to point out something else too, that I was looked at the other day, and I just looked at by accident because I wasn't like, I don't care. I'm not going to study each and every Miami point to rub it in these losers' faces or whatever who's trying to argue online about it. But like, I just was looking at the ACC standings, just to see where like Pitt was and all the like the tiebreakers and stuff. I was just taking a look at it. So Miami's played 10 games. They played 2 road games. They played 8 at home. Like,
have they left Florida yet?
I gotta check right here.
Well, they played SMU, right?
They played SMU. That was
lost
that game. But no, they played 9 games in the state of Florida. Like,
they played 2 road games?
They played 2 road games.
And lost one?
And lost one. And frankly, they let Florida State back into that game. And, you know, obviously they were in control of that game, but they let Florida State back in that game and should have killed that team by a lot more. And, I mean, this isn't even to mention that, like, okay, they boat raced USF. Well, Notre Dame just killed Navy, who beat USF. Like, there's these other, if we're going to talk about these other little things too, right? Like, there's just these other little pieces that go with it. But they, like, their last 2 games, they're going to play on the road, right? At Virginia Tech and at Pitt. And listen, Virginia Tech's not good. They got a new coach. I don't know, like, whatever. I haven't been following how Virginia Tech has been doing, to be honest. I have no idea if they even have any ounce of a chance of actually winning this game. But they haven't played on the road, and like they've only left the state of Florida once this entire season. They played 8 home games, and they only so even when we're talking about like scheduling and all that kind of stuff, like there has to be some kind of balance there when it comes to whatever, especially when you know, like, one of the reasons they backed out of the Notre Dame game last year because they thought they were going to have too many road games, right? And okay, fair enough. Like, that was what they were going to do. But so then why didn't they play Notre Dame on the road this year instead? So, well, they postponed it till the next. Could have played it at Notre Dame this year. They really want, like, you know, there's all that kind of stuff, right? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think, frankly, like, I would be shocked if Miami lost to Virginia Tech and Pitt. I think Pitt, the dues is doozing again by playing his guys at the last thing. His left guard got hurt. I don't know if that guy's going to be healthy the rest of the way, whatever. I have no idea how Pitt is going to kind of finish the season, whatever. Like, they could come out and rise up, but like, I have a feeling like Mason Henschel's going to get just smoked in that game or whatever, right? But I just don't. When that is how their schedule has played out, and they're not killing teams to the point that they are, like, maybe they do bring that up in the committee, and they probably should bring it up in the committee. I hope they do, because I've never heard of a team that has gone into, like, it's November 19th. They've played 2 road games this year. Like, I don't think I've ever heard of that.
I think the best talking point out there is, well, if beating Notre Dame doesn't help them, then they shouldn't play at all. You absolute morons. The only reason Miami is even in consideration is because they beat Notre Dame. That is the only. If you played Clemson in week 1, They would just be Virginia right now, and no one would care. You absolute idiots. Did you? They ducked out of Notre Dame last year, yeah? Did they make it? They didn't make it. Like how is that better? You take your best data point and take it off your schedule. Where are you at? You're nowhere. You absolute morons. Chuck Todd said it. This man was on Meet the Press, Jamie. He's supposed to be a smart person. All right. I just can't. It's unbelievable. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It is so ridiculous. People telling on themselves every day. I am a moron.
I also want to point out too that they've played, yes. So if you take Notre Dame off their schedule, USF, SMU, and Louisville are the only 3 teams with a winning record that they've played that are over 500.
Yeah.
So, and I know Notre Dame is not playing a murderer's row this year, but I can promise you they played a better schedule than those jokers. So
it's just unbelievable. I can't. How do you tell on yourself in a way? Like, what critical thinking are you employing that allows you to say something like, it would be better if we removed the best data point possible? Why would you do that? Why would you just completely just undercut your entire argument? I just don't get it. I don't understand. And so I don't want to understand. But it is fun, right? It's like, it is a fun thing to watch these people spin out and just make fools of themselves. Because that's what they do all the time, right? It just don't take the best thing that you have and throw it away. It would be like if Goods Candies like threw away the recipes that they've been using for 100 years. That's what that would be like. You would never do that, right? You take the thing that you have and you make it better. That's what Goods Candies does, Jamie. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, that's a small Indiana-based chocolate company with recipes that go back 100 years. They're a small batch producer of decadent confections ranging from toffee to cream centers to their latest offering, peanut butter bombs. Unlike some other candies where you don't know what you're getting with each bite, Goods Candies wants you to make sure you do know what you're getting. Its cream centers have a unique design, so you always know what's waiting inside. All varieties are offered in milk and dark chocolate. For our business listeners, Goods Candies offers customized chocolate bar gift boxes. They're not customized wrappers like you get at the bank. These are customized chocolate bars that can include your logo or a message. These make the ideal client gift, and Goods Candies can offer all shipping for you. Word on the streets are that ESQ has got something in the works with Goods Candies. So we're blending, right? We're blending the sponsors on this show. The website is www.goodscandies.com. Viewers can save 20% through the end of the year with promo code ISD. Place your order online or reach out to Goods Candies at goodscandies.com with questions. Let's make the transition. The Pitt game. Right. Final thoughts, Jamie. What stood out to you about the Pitt game? Something that hasn't been spoken about or not spoken about enough.
I don't know if there's anything that really stood out that we didn't already kind of cover about it. Because I guess I'll just kind of reemphasize the point that Notre Dame's defense has been kind of like, it's like the healthiest it's been since the beginning of the season. And I think that is pretty important, right? Like, I think that's pretty important. I think, I'm going to do something in 6 thoughts about kind of like how snap counts and the comparisons. Cause obviously if you look at like the total number of snaps, like Christian Gray played last year compared to how much he's going to play this year, even with these last couple games, it's going to be way down because obviously he missed the Louisville game last year, but he missed
Right.
multiple games this year. And I just think there's been like a lot of times too where like you kind of forget that like the secondary, especially in that Purdue game, which we talked about at the time, but maybe didn't emphasize enough that, they were playing 2 true freshmen in that game, and
Yeah.
that in their first start and all that kind of stuff. So, I just think that, and just that, and the fact that there are guys on the team like getting better, where if you would have said at the beginning of the year, like, a few games into the season, you'd say like Jason Onye, frankly, he's been a disappointment based on how he was being hyped up before the season. And I think that's more than fair. And you had said at that time, well, Gabriel Rubio was the best defensive tackle on the team by a wide margin.
Mm.
And now you see like, well, Onye is playing at a much higher level since the USC game. Elijah Hughes has really stepped up. Dawson has played really well. And Heinisch has been like banged up and hasn't really kind of played at the same level as some of those other guys, really. He hasn't been, I don't think he's been as bad as some people think, but hasn't elevated to a certain point where you would have said that would have been bad for Notre Dame if that was the case. Like Rubio's out, Heinisch is not doing that. Or you'd say like Bryce Young hasn't been making enough plays. Well, it's like, well, now Josh Burnham's making a lot of plays and all that. There's just a lot of that going there with like Luke Talek is just like making plays every week. And not just like, they're just the depth and the totality of what you see on the defense. Cause that's another perfect example of like in that first week, Jalen Stroman like played like, I want to say almost every snap in that game. He played a lot in that first week. Well, now, Talent has his role and Tay Johnson's there. And obviously Adon Schuler's playing at a very high level and all of this kind of stuff. It's all like kind of coming together. And I think that is, has really, really, really stood out for me. Just like, it is what feeling more comfortable with Chris Ash and he's calling it better and they're better schematically and all this kind of stuff. But it's also that, there's guys developing, there's guys healthy, and it all comes together to make the defense good.
Yeah. On the Jalen Stroman point, he played 57 of 71 snaps against Miami. So I think I need to just like give a mea culpa of sorts regarding the Devontae Smith situation. I did not think that he would. I did not think he'd be an effective player for Notre Dame for the rest of the regular season, just based on like the calf and all those other things. He was good against Navy. I thought he was stellar in this game against Pitt. I mean, a lot of man coverage, was sticky. He had a nice breakup over the middle, like right before the Christian Gray breakup that was over the middle. Like just, playing with aggression. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where it's like you could bang him because he came free on the nickel blitz and he just simply has to make that play. But like we also saw a number of players miss on Mason Heinzel in this game. Like we saw Drake Bowen miss, saw Jalen Sneed miss. I think Josh Burnham missed at one point. Like when it's multiple players, they just couldn't get a handle on Mason Heinzel at times. So I don't want to get on Smith, that much for that, but like just the aggression and the tackling, like he's really solidified them back there. So I need to give him a culpa for that. I continue to be amazed at Tay Johnson. Just his feel, man. He has such a feel for the position. It's kind of remarkable just because he's played so little of it. And the post I put on Twitter where it's like a nothing play. He doesn't register a snap on it, but when he's covering the tight end across the field and Heinzel starts to scramble, Tay Johnson, he understands that the player that he's guarding is running towards the sideline and is kind of removing himself as a threat on the play because of the down and distance. And so he stops covering him and slow plays to make sure that Heinzel can't scramble upfield for the first down, because if he stays sticky on the tight end, he will have a path and he will run for the first down. It's little feel plays like that he makes, along with, the pick six where he plays the zone perfectly. He comes up on a run play. He runs the alley perfectly. He makes key tackles, right? He's a sure tackler. Like, stuff like that is it's just, you could never expect it. You just can't predict that. Yeah. And you can only assume that he didn't play more in week 1 because they just weren't sure that he had the coverages down, and he just wasn't. Maybe they weren't sure he was ready for that type of moment. He obviously showed that he has been. He's been one of Notre Dame's best players. Your point about Gabe Rubio is interesting because he missed the USC game. And again, it just kind of goes to show, like, they didn't have Ashton Craig in the USC game. They go run for 300 plus. They don't have Gabe Rubio, their best D tackle and their best run stuffing D tackle. And then they completely mitigate USC's run game. Like, those are the types of things that trend well for, Notre Dame's defense. And, it was a great observation by Mike on Power Hour. I had not noticed Joe Otting's ankle at all. And he noticed it. And I don't think he noticed it in one of the photos that we showed. I'm going to see if I can bring it up here, actually, because just to show people just how heavy his ankle was wrapped. Let me get rid of this real quick and then I'll find it.
It's definitely a brace and not a spat.
It's definitely a brace. And I have a photo and I'll put it up here because here it is. I'll tell you what, man, when you watch the game back, he cannot anchor at all. At all. There are so many plays. I honestly, I view this entire game from a run blocking standpoint completely different now. When you look at how everyone else blocked versus how Joe Otting blocked, he cannot anchor. Anytime pressure was put on the ankle, he completely just buckled. And obviously there was, in pass pro, it wasn't as bad. But whenever he tried to go at a player on the run game and there was push there, and if he got pushed on his right side, he buckled. I just think he was nowhere near ready to compete at a high level, especially against the caliber of a D tackle that Pitt was bringing to the table. So I view it different. And I'm wondering if when you watch the game back, if you notice the same thing. Very gutty performance because he was very limited with that ankle in the game.
Yeah. And I wonder too, like, obviously they kind of need him. I saw Chris Shivers there's like play Heron. It's like, no, they do not want to put a true freshman
right
there
against that defense. That's a no.
Well, just and I think even in these next couple games, like if they can get Otting out, if they get a big enough lead and they can say, okay, Heron, you can take some snaps here, or
because let's be clear. They ran for 175 yards.
Yes. But I'm just talking about just in terms of giving him some rest and not like doing it. Because if you can see, like, for people who, well, I guess it's very common for football people would know, like, spatting. It's like basically like taping over the ankle. So you can see Gerby Lambert. You can't see that it's him, but the guard next to.
Look at Jeremiah Love's ankles. Look at Jeremiah Love's ankles. They're spatted every time.
Well, look at the tape on Gerby's right ankle, and you're like, that's a spat. Then look at Otting's ankle, and you're like, yeah, that's a brace. They spatted over top of the brace,
right?
And he's wearing also black cleats, so it's not white cleats like the other guys too. So, that is that it is a thing, and I definitely noticed it. It was something. You got to give him total credit for that. And obviously too, I'll say this, like, there's so many guys who play hurt all the time for Notre Dame. Just for most teams, but like, for Notre Dame, like, I don't know how many people understand like how it can affect some of these guys in their play. And but guys just want to play and want to be out there. And a lot of times they're still helping the team, but they're not going to be at their best. And man, like even the fact that Billy Schrauth finished that USC game or almost finished that USC game is like insane. When you consider
Billy Schrauth, I mean, Christian Gray plays the entire game and then he misses the next 2 games. And it's like he misses the next 2 games with a bye week in there.
Yeah.
Like the 3 weeks that he was out with this hip. And it's like you just don't look. I mean, I was very hard on him after the like because the long touchdown he gave up against Jacoby Lane, the long catch he gave up against Mekhi Lemon, like he's non-competitive, right? But then when Marcus Freeman says he's injured with the hip and then he misses 3 weeks, then okay, like you credit that, right? And and so then he comes back in this game and looks great, right? But like he plays through it in the rain because the game's important. And then he gets an interception in that game, which, kind of helps Notre Dame seal it, right? So it's just like these guys, like you said, they play through stuff. You don't really have any idea. It's kind of like Jay Nosberry last year with the elbow. Struggled at the end of the year. Elbow is totally messed up. He looks like a completely different player this year. Obviously, he's been he's got some experience and things like that. But it's just like there's a lot of injuries that get played through that we don't know about that affect the level of play. And it's kind of one of those things. Like if they're out there, you got to evaluate how they're playing. And sometimes we don't even know, But like you would always kind of point out. Like last year, Howard Cross, like you were like, he's playing injured, right? Donovan Heinisch, you talk about him, like something's wrong with him. He's playing injured. He's not playing the way that he usually does. Marcus Freeman comes out, and this was pre-concussion. Marcus Freeman comes out and says like, hey, Donovan Heinisch is dealing with something, So it's just, it happens every year. And
don't have to be listed on the injury report to be playing hurt.
Right. And just like guys, pick up stuff all the time. So, so I wanted to talk about that. I want to talk about Tay Johnson because I'm just forever impressed with him. I thought it was interesting when Marcus Freeman talked about CJ Carr getting the team out of plays with checks that they didn't use during the week. That's pretty next level, man. Like to have the confidence to be like, hey, we haven't worked on this check before, but we have to get out of this play. Like that's pretty advanced.
Okay, because you brought that up, I wanted to bring up the play before he threw the pick six.
Yeah.
Which was a great play, obviously, by that player. But like the play before, he called an RPO. The O-line blocked it like an RPO, but this just showed like Micah Gilbert didn't run a route. He was blocking, and because of that, he ended up pulling it and then running, which you don't obviously. Carr doesn't pull it very often,
right,
and run. So, but that just shows you too. It's like one of those things where like Gilbert, maybe they're not on the same page doing that, but like that is the kind of thing too that made me think of that specific instance, because that's the kind of thing that if everybody's on it, then they're getting it. But like Gilbert, who hasn't played really in that long, and I mean really hasn't played that much this year, period, that is something where you could get like a miscommunication in that kind of time. But it actually is in a weird way, it might probably helps him because it's like, oh crap, I got to know this for all this, for future reference, because there's probably going to be a point there's always going to be a point where someone is needed in something and they might make a check and you got to be ready.
Yeah. You said on Power Hour about the screen that was the pick six screen. You said if the linebacker doesn't make that play, it's like gonna score. And it's kind of like every time it feels like every time a screen is blown up or someone tips it, it's always man that screen was set up. That screen was set up. Like it's like a meme. I went back and watched. There's like one guy with 3 blockers.
It was set up that one though.
I don't know. I don't know if he would have scored.
I don't try to use that because he's definitely. I don't try to do that.
The only way he doesn't score is if he gets. It's like gonna be a 50-yard play at the very least, because all he has to do is catch it and run straight. He wouldn't even have to. He wouldn't have to make a move. So
that's what I mean. Like
it really was like
a bad call.
Like, it really was. Like, it was the correct call. The linebacker just. It's almost. It's funny too because they are almost Notre Dame was like. I felt like on the earlier screen to Pauling, the process took too long, and it allowed the safety to come up. I felt like on this one, the process, like that ball handling was too fast.
Yeah,
for the linebacker to come. Like if the linebacker crashes and he catches it, he's just running straight, and maybe someone catches him, but it's like gonna be a huge explosive. So I thought that was a funny thing. Notre Dame is headed to their final home game of the season against Syracuse, and you can be a part of that if you are a part of H2 Pickleball and the H2 Pickleball community. If you can get discounted tickets to that game, if you're a part of the Will Howes Pickleball Clinic that's going on Friday, and then of course that's H2 Pickleball, founded by Notre Dame alum Todd Hill. He's teamed with fellow alums Jack Gibbs and Will Howes, of course, a top 10 pickleball pro, bringing Notre Dame fans to Notre Dame Pickleball Crew League. Besides football, what better way to connect and engage Notre Dame fans than through pickleball? Membership's free, and members have access to special pickleball events and discounts. As I mentioned before, the next event will be the Will Howes Pickleball Clinic this Friday before the Syracuse game. Members also get tickets to the Syracuse game, which is now a sellout. So hopefully you can take advantage of those discounts. Contact Todd at h2pickleball.com or call him at 574-339-5195 to join the league. Be sure to visit the H2 Pickleball facility in Mishawaka when you are in town. H2 Pickleball is located at 55801 Evergreen Plaza Drive in Mishawaka, Indiana. Obviously, Steve Angeli was Syracuse's starting quarterback, and he was having a very good season numbers-wise. Tore his Achilles, he's out for the year. They were going with Ricky Collins for a time, who A, wasn't having the best season, and B, they're now going with a former. He's a lacrosse player.
Still a walk-on.
He's still a walk-on, former lacrosse player, freshman.
Yes.
Not the best situation for him going against Notre Dame. No. So, I mean, this is Notre Dame's got to roll in this one.
They do have to roll. Okay, so, but to give you an idea of why, because you would think this is insane to make this call. I just want to say, like, Ricky Collins, 127th in QBR out of, I think, the ones who've qualified is 132 players. So he's 127th out of 132.
Yeah.
He's last in PFF's passing grades for Power 4 quarterbacks, second last in turnover worthy play percentage, and last in adjusted completion percentage, and last in 58 with a 58.5 NFL passer rating. So just to let you know, that's how bad it's gone. And really, like, with Angeli, and they played Clemson, who at the very least Clemson has a defense.
Right. Oh, for sure.
Clemson has a defense, and they basically beat Collins played at the end of the game and was terrible, but they beat Clemson based off of what Angeli had did before, and they played Tennessee earlier and were like, they moved the ball on them. So they averaged 473 basically yards per game with Angeli in the first 4 games. It's 288 since. They're basically 200 yards less per game since then. They were an explosive offense with Angeli. They only averaged 2 20-plus yard completions per game since then. This kid, Joe Filardi, the lacrosse player, he started one game against UNC. He was 4 of 18, 2.2 yards per attempt, 3 turnover-worthy plays. He had 3 fumbles. They had a 9% success rate passing in the game. He came in and they got a touchdown against, like, literally, this is what Fran Brown said. He's like, that was the first touchdown we scored in a month. So that's why we are playing like the offense or whatever. Like, or I think they had pass work. They actually have run the ball okay.
I mean, they're going to run the ball so much in this game.
They're going to run the ball a lot. And probably they're going to run with the quarterback too. Like, he's going to run. Right. They're also, I think, going to play the other young kid who's like, this kid who's like a 4-time state champion, Texas kid, Luke Carney, who's like another freshman. They don't want to burn his red shirt, so he might play in this game, might play whatever. They played 17 true freshmen against Miami. I can't even remember a team that has played that many true freshmen in a game.
Yeah.
But it's like, basically, he said how they were treated the bye. They treated it like bowl practices because they're not going to have a bowl this year, obviously. So, they started out 3-1, and then they're weirdly, that UConn win looks like a good win now. Like at the beginning of the year, like that looks like a pretty good win with Angeli. So you can see why they talk about Angeli and like how they're kind of excited about like, hey, we can be pretty good with him.
Yeah.
And they're playing a ton of like freshman receivers, freshman guys up front. Same thing in their secondary. Like they have a actually really good true freshman corner who's really good. Demetrius Samuel, he's good. And they have a couple other, like it's all like freshmen, red shirt freshmen. Throughout the thing, they're Will Linebacker's a true freshman. He's played there the whole year. Like and then there's so many guys that their most snaps of the season were against Miami because they were just like, the season is essentially over. What we're doing, they're still like honoring the older guys, but they're giving these younger guys reps too. So, I mean, it should be a game where guys are going to look out of place for them because they're just young and they're going to get dominated in a way. So there's really no excuse for Notre Dame not to come out and kick the crap out of them. But I do think that they'll do some funky stuff and might like make some plays because of it. Like Samuel, for example, like in the spring, he practiced at receiver and corner, and then he played 8 plays against Miami at receiver as well as corner in the game. So, I mean, obviously that's just the kind of thing like you prepare for. And like,
right.
Dan Velarde is their tight end, who's a pretty good player. And he was a high school quarterback. He does their sneaks. I mean, to me, it's just like red alert that this guy's going to like do something. They're going to do like the Mark Andrews thing that they did in the Ravens game, things like that. I think you got to be ready for. Jade Bellamy doesn't play for Q's anymore. He's he transferred to UCF, I believe. They were going to be a young team anyways. They had some really bad luck, obviously, with injuries in terms of Angeli being out. Their best lineman tore his knee in May. They had like 3 guys who were going to be like key stars for them that bounced after the spring because of NIL money. It's just been like that. They're very young. They're very young. They just decided to go a route where they're going to play young guys and kind of live with it.
Yeah.
And just go that way. And I do think Fran Brown is like, I think they're going to be pretty good in a couple years. Just, they're going through the bumps right now.
If he's committed and they're committed, then you could absolutely see that they're getting there. Jacob Paulus, Chris Schreiber says, you blitz the hell out of the quarterback. Do whatever. Yeah. You shouldn't. It's not like one of those things where it's like you got to game plan to blitz. Or, I mean, if you want to blitz. If you don't. Like Notre Dame should be able to do whatever they need to do against this quarterback.
Run your defense, yeah.
Just run your defense and do whatever that might be. But we can talk about that more tomorrow when we do the official Syracuse preview. So we can end it there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. If you like what you heard, hit that like button, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, so whenever it is we are going live. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 Eastern time, previewing Syracuse, talking about Marcus Freeman updates from his press conference and anything else that comes up in the chat. So have a good rest of your day, everyone. We will talk to you tomorrow. Keep hitting and hustling.